Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Dorbin number 82 BNE. This is a polished brass door sweep with a sponge neoprene insert, and it is just a beautiful example of architectural hardware. You can see that nice polished brass finish that's on there. This happens to be a 48-inch sweep. It also happens to be weather stripping as well. This can be used as perimeter gasketing that you'd mount at the head and what you would mount on the jambs, naturally, very commonly used for that, but also used as a sweep, somewhere where you need a significant amount of robust, thick, high-quality insert, like a neoprene would be. Sponge in the sense that it is, there's like a dense neoprene, then there's a sponge type neoprene, then there's more of like a foam type neoprene as well. The real dense material literally smells like car tire. Very dense, very, very thick. Sponge is literally like its namesake, sponge. The foam is much less dense than even the sponge type. The difference with the sponge is that you're going to get some better flexibility naturally, rather than a very dense strap of solid neoprene rubber. Okay. Now the 82 stands for this profile. So when you order an 82, it's going to look like this. The B stands for the base material. That's solid architectural bronze. Some people will call it brass. It's technically an amalgamation of four primary base materials. It's okay to call it brass. We're going to call it architectural bronze because that's what the industry will call it. But that is the material that you'll use when you are doing solid brass hardware or solid bronze hardware. It's an amalgamation of different base materials. The N in the part number stands for that neoprene. The E stands for extruded, and that holder, or the L angle on the solid brass material, is extruded, versus a much thinner style that Dorbin will have of the same sort of product. It might just be a 82BN without the E, and it's a roll-formed piece of architectural bronze, which the translation, it's just simply much thinner, is what you're going to have on that. Let's take a look at that part number just so that you have a comparison. The 82, and what I'm doing literally is looking in the catalog for what the other part number is called. The 82... Indeed, 82BN, and that will be a roll-formed piece of much thinner material, and it will utilize the same sort of the identical sponge neoprene. Why would you want that material? Well, if you want the cost, of course, a piece of extruded bronze like this is certainly going to cost more. I'm going to make an attempt to give you the thickness of this material as best I can. About 75 thousandths of an inch thick on this piece of extruded bronze, whereas that roll formed would be probably less than half of that sort of thickness. Now this material is held on with an adhesive, that's what's there. It's also held on with the screws that would be provided, and they are solid brass screws as well. Okay. This also has a clear lacquer over it as well, which is going to give it its highly reflective, shiny sort of appearance, which would be required, not required, you could order it unlacquered because that's a process, but if you want the polished brass to last longer rather than less, you'll want the lacquer on there. Eventually, it being a solid brass base material, the lacquer will fatigue and the item will begin to age, as brass will when it's exposed. That is, of course, just simply a nature of what the material is, and there's no way to really permanently cure that sort of problem. You'll have it on lock sets, on door knockers, you'll have that sort of fatigue and failure on kick plates, etc. So it's no better or no worse than any other piece of hardware. Now, some people do order it unlacquered because they do literally want that aging process to start. To each his own. Now, the fact that it's solid brass or architectural bronze means it's going to be available in different finishes. If you just order the 82 BNE straight, it's going to be mill. It's going to be a streaky, flat, bronzy brass type color that is just what it looks like when it's extruded at the mill. There'd be no finish preparation to it whatsoever. Be very careful if you're ordering that. Don't order it if you don't know what it is. Don't order it just because it's the least expensive. Be sure that you want a mill finish. Some people want that because it will age in a very particular way, as brass would. There's also satin, where they can take that and turn it into a 606 finish, which is satin brass. You can then do the polished, which would be a 605 finish. You can do oil rubbed bronze, which would be a 613 finish, and all of it are very elegant finishes. Now, what I strongly urge you to do is to order the net size that you need so that you don't have to cut the extrusion at all. If it's mill, doesn't really matter. Even if it's brass, you know, you're really not going to see that, but the truth of the matter is, if there's any process done to the brass, oil rubbed, especially oil rubbed, when you cut that, you're going to expose the end of what you've cut. So keep that in mind when ordering it, because you don't want to have to contend with the fact that you're going to disrupt the lacquer or the oil rubbed, because when you see the end of it, it's not going to be oil rubbed anymore, or the satin finish. Really not a big deal. You're not seeing much, and frankly, you're really never going to see it hardly at all. But just, if it was me, I wouldn't want to take the chance of cutting it incorrectly. Let the factory cut it, is what I say. Assuming it's a door sweep or whatever, you're just going to measure the distance between the stops. If it's a door sweep, you'll probably want to deduct a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch total. The sponge neoprene will run long. That's always the case. You're going to trim that in the field to suit your conditions. Now, regarding custom lengths, this is going to be listed in the website in lots of different lengths, everything from really 2 foot to 8 foot. And you can certainly order longer than 8 foot, but we don't list them because the cost to ship is prohibitive. But before we get to the lengths, let's go over the dimensional properties. You can see from the drawing down below this video, this is 1.25 inches tall. And then the overall, well, they don't give the overall width, but it's going to be, you know, basically 7/16. And then you've got 3/8 worth of the sponge neoprene itself. Okay. Now, in terms of the length, if you have need for a custom length, by all means let us know by ordering the next longest piece or pieces, and simply indicate in the comment field what length you'd like for us to cut the material back to. The reasoning is this. Again, you don't want to have to cut it, but you're not going to want to drill it. If you had to take this 48-inch piece and cut it down to, say, 44-inch, you're going to eliminate that slotted hole. That slotted hole is nice to have because you can tailor the installation of this piece of weather stripping on the door, regardless of it being a door sweep where you might have a sill that's not level, or maybe a door that's not plumb, or if it's weather stripping, you really want to have proper contact between the face of the gasketing and the face of the door. Having that slotted hole will help compensate for a door that's tipped in or out. A misdrilled hole, certainly, it'll help compensate for. You don't want to have a condition where your hole has been misdrilled. That drill bit might have had a tendency to walk a little bit before it pierces into the steel or wood or fiberglass or bronze, whatever you're drilling into. Certainly, if you've not used a center punch, you're going to want to have those slotted holes so that you can really tailor it. A piece of weather stripping that's ill-fitting, either too much or too little, is ineffective. Too much, that's going to wear out prematurely and not be very effective long-term. Too little is akin to not having any weather stripping at all. So if you want to order a net length to all of these pieces, just order the next longest piece. Or pieces, indicate in the comment field the length that you want us to send the material out at, and that's how it'll come out. And then the advantage is you'll have holes at the proper distance from the edge, and of course the proper center to center as well. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Dorbin products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, which is relatively new, extremely new, and refreshing as a matter of fact. And then also a link to the product catalog, which is fairly new. That catalog's got a date of 2016 or thereabouts, and its predecessor was pre-Y2K. I mean, I think the last catalog was from 1999. Not much has changed in the field of weather stripping, and Dorbin is a company that is steeped in tradition. All you have to do is visit their shop and see how they produce things. You'll see that they do things the old way, including using the use of typewriters, which is always nostalgic in a good positive sort of way to see. I'm partial to Dorbin, and it's because they do a great job. They've got a relatively petite footprint of material. They know what they do, and they do it very well. Aluminum, stainless, bronze, zinc weather stripping. If you have need for bronze or zinc weather stripping for wood double hung windows or interlocking weather stripping for doors, Dorbin is your place. Open up that catalog and go to the last 20% of the book, and that's where you're going to start to see all of that weather stripping. I happen to have a sample of it here, and if you're viewing this video, you might have experience with bronze weather stripping like this, but the fact of the matter is, here in Chicago, there must be hundreds of thousands of those old original windows that are still in existence. And it's nice to be able to get your hands on replacement weather stripping for that stuff and continue to get useful service out of the significant investment in, obviously, windows. If you have any questions on the Dorbin number 82 BNE in a polished finish door sweep or any other Dorbin product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.